Thank you very much, and a very good afternoon to all of you. In fact, have been put on spot because I'm just sitting in between. Rather, I'm encroaching on the lunch time. But this is a very critical discussion that we have, and we really thank Balipara Foundation for giving us this opportunity. So we've been listening to a lot of issues that are circling around water. So we spoke about, I think earlier this morning we had spoken about third pole being Asia's water tower, and also about the largest freshwater repository that is there, which sustains almost about 3 million people, and 10 river systems including Ganga Brahmaputra is also dependent on that. There was a recent news where we actually, which talked about expansion of the glacier lake by almost about 10.8%. And I think Dr. Usha was talking about glacier lake outburst floods, which perhaps is going to definitely increase given the current situation. And also it points to the glacier retreat, which is actually happening at a very alarming rate. Sikkim, Arunachal, of course, has seen, among other 5 states which have seen, Arunachal and Sikkim have observed a very notable amount of expansion in their glacial lake. Drying of springs, it's not unknown to us. Almost 200 springs in Arunachal have dried up, and it has got also a huge dependency of people on the springs for their water requirement. Also, the other states in the northeast, we have almost about 30 to 55% of dependency on the spring. Rainfall, of course, we have seen temporal and spatial variability in the rainfall, and that is not only resulting in floods and losses. Assam itself has seen almost 200 crores of losses because of floods. Food, again, is getting impacted. Nagaland has been significantly impacted in terms of rice production. So land degradation also, if we look at, it's almost 6 out of 7 top states that we talk in terms of land degradation are in the northeast region. So the challenge is phenomenal, but it's very important that people have been talking about that natural resources, be it water or be it forest, they don't respect geographical boundaries, and hence it's very, very important that we address them at a watershed level, or what we talk about as at a spring shed level or at a landscape level, and not treat them in isolation. And water, of course, crosscuts with all the sustainable development goals. So whether we are talking of a healthy economy, ecology, or people, it's critical that we address the problem of water first. So on that, I would first like to invite Dr. Eklavya Sharma, who is Strategic Advisor and Senior Fellow at EHNF2024, about, when we're talking about addressing of restoration of the watershed in the upstream. What are the challenges that you see with regard to that?
Thank you very much. I think when we look at the third pole, very importantly, why the challenge is coming, and that the fundamentals is that 2 major drivers of change, that is climate change and biodiversity loss, and that is really impacting in terms of watershed structure, landscape structure and function, then having another level of impact, that is reducing the ecosystem services, the quality of ecosystem services. So the challenge is coming from climate change, and it is coming from very much biodiversity loss. But when we look at the third pole, as you mentioned, 10 major rivers are originating here and basins are here. So the challenge for governance, if we look at, or management, is very much transboundary. The political systems are transboundary, the governance is transboundary. So the challenge is how to make the plans complementary along the river basins. I think that is the big challenge which we see. Another very important thing, we are talking about mountains. And mountains, every 100 meters you will have a different ecological system. So to divide the third pole region, let's look at the four major zones. One is the cryosphere, the frozen ice, which was mentioned as globe, glaciers, permafrost. So that is one paradigm very much up there. And in that we have very limited monitoring systems and very little science has been there. So the first challenge is to get the science right, what is happening at the cryosphere area. The second, I think many of us are engaged in the alpine and temperate zone, and then middle forest, the tropical zone. So what is happening in these three zones is impacting downstreams. So our studies in the Eastern Himalayan region and published in 2011 as a Eastern Himalaya multi-country assessment clearly showed what happened in mountains is impacting large number of people. The vulnerability is increasing downstream. So what is the solution? Very much in terms of governance, I think two very important things. One, we need to have a river basin approach. So multi-country cooperation is critical and important. And in this, the technical, the science-backed of evidence for cooperation has to be brought in. So river basin management supported by integrated watershed management, where research policy and practice has to be integrated in the overall plan, design and taking it forward. Third, very important in terms of governance, see, we talk about the technical part, and I'm very happy in this forum. Since morning we are hearing at least two very major. The science part, between countries and countries we can do more science collaboration, but I'm very happy to see business collaboration with the sensitivity of the environment can be brought. And the third is community to community exchange. We should not just depend on government to government exchange, but bring other three dimensions, science, business and practice together.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think very good points in terms of integrating science, business, community, and of course good governance there. In fact, traditionally we did have these water bodies being governed by communities, and they did beautifully well with regard to its management. And today we have Dr. Dhrupat Chaudhary with us, who is a senior advisor of the Indigenous Partnership for Agro-Biodiversity. So I would come to you because I was talking about science and modern technology that we have. How do you see it integrating with the indigenous system? And I would definitely like you to reflect on food sovereignty, which you promote extensively in your work. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Let me start by talking about what we have been doing the last year or nearly 2 years, and then bring in the answer that you have, the question that you raised. For the last 2 years, the Indigenous Partnership, together with the partners in 4 different countries, we have been trying to gather evidence to show what are the potential of indigenous people's food systems in terms of providing templates of solutions for the triple planetary crisis. We used FAO's the agroecological performance evaluation tool, or also known as STAE, complemented with storytelling. Now, in short, some of the key findings or the key messages that we have, and this is from storytelling from 3 different countries, a total of around 30 to 40 stories that we collected. One of the key messages is when you talk about indigenous food systems, their outlook towards nature is one of harmony. And they say that we need to nurture nature because nature nurtures us. When you look at their outlook in terms of nature and the functioning within that and conservation, they talk about the whole food system being biocentric, not anthropocentric. Now, it's a very important key message here. When we talk about conservation, we talk about leaving people out of an area to conserve the biodiversity which is there, forgetting that human beings are very much part of nature. And if you don't have that interaction, you will not be able to nurture nature in the way that it needs to go. So what are the lessons that we get from that, and how can indigenous knowledge and practices contribute? I think before we look into that, we need to basically rethink, and we need to reflect on 2 or 3 very fundamental issues. The first is of knowledge generation. Okay. Now, when we talk about knowledge generation, and I'm afraid Eklewa just, before me talked about the importance of science. We need to unpeel that. When we say science, what do we mean by that, right? And you'll find invariably that this has been driven by a Western thinking. Mind you, knowledge generation is not the prerogative solely of science. There are other systems as well which is contributing to knowledge generation. And one of that is through experiential learning, is through empirical learning. And when you come back to knowledge which is generated or the experience of indigenous people's knowledge systems, it is through experience. It is empirical knowledge passed on through generations, which is the repository. Unlike scientific knowledge, which is experimental. And there lies a very, very fundamental difference. And this is something that we have to recognize and reflect on. So when we talk about how indigenous knowledge can contribute, one of the things that we have got to recognize is that indigenous knowledge generation needs to be respected in the same way as you respect science. And the reason I say this is inherently in the way that indigenous people generate knowledge, there is a scientific basis. Indigenous people, rural farmers, do not have the luxury of failure. It's important to understand this. The reason being that if there's a failure for the farmer or the indigenous household, it may mean starvation for the family. For us as scientists, a failure doesn't affect us because we get a salary coming in. So what the indigenous farmer or the rural farmer will do is retain those knowledge which is useful and practice that. Transfer that into the next generation, and it will share the knowledge or the practices which are failures. It's a very subtle and a very important aspect that we have got to reflect on. The second is, when we talk about how we integrate this, we have got to recognize that one of the first steps we require to do is the decolonization of knowledge. We need to share Western thinking, and this is what we had heard in the morning as well, and give enough acknowledgement, recognition, and respect to knowledge which is local and indigenous. Right? And lastly, we need to bring about and nurture the culture of intercultural knowledge generation and co-creation of solutions. I think these are things which we need to keep in mind.
So I'll come back to you. Thank you very much. I think very important point that you spoke about decolonization of knowledge, and we were talking about development. We don't have to adopt a Western style of development. In the morning, Her Excellency spoke about it, and I think our development model was more sustainable, Someone even spoke about back to basics. But sir, I would like to come to you, Mr. Anand Singh. And here, Drupad spoke about biocentric food system versus anthropocentric food system. And we know that over a period of time we have brought in more commercialization in crop production as well. But given the climate change that's happening, how do you see re-envisioning agriculture, or reimagining agriculture? How should the practices be there so that it still continues to be perhaps the preferred option for farmers?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like thanks to Balipara Foundations for sharing, putting me here for sharing my experience and learning on natural resource management, which I have been practicing since last 20 years across the region of India. Currently, I am working with Tata Steel Foundation, and our major projects are in Jharkhand, Odisha, and West Bengal. As you all know, there are many experts here who are actually working on natural resource management and biodiversity and soil and water conservation measures. When we talk about watershed management, large-scale landscape management, where 60-70% of the total management is based on soil and water conservation, which are major enablers towards revitalizing, restoring the ecosystem, maintaining the biodiversity within the watershed. As far as the question related to agriculture, in watershed management, agriculture is one of the major component because we work on water conservations, soil conservations, revitalizing soils, increasing organic matter by different conservation measures. So, as far as agriculture is concerned, by adopting various agricultural practices, this is the era for commercial agriculture. So, and parallelly we are talking about the regenerating agriculture, natural farming process, revitalizing our biodiversity plans. So, actually, this is a very challenging situations with respect to the populations we have right now. So within the watershed, I would like to say that the various practices are there where agriculture can be taken up in commercial way by adopting various organic solutions. Strip croppings are there in eastern regions. There are many bench terracing practices are there where you can control runoffs and protect your topsoils. So presently the era is cultivating cash crops, and so these cash crops and other related crops can be grown through regenerative agricultural practices as well. And there is a lot of scopes in our practices where we can produce such commercial crops.
Thank you very much. I think you very rightly said that we need to adopt regenerative practices if we really want to revive our agriculture. Vishwa Bandhu Bhattacharya, again, you are from Tata Consumer Products Limited. I just want to understand that Tata has got a whole lot of different kinds of businesses that you do, which does have an impact on the watershed. So how does Tata measure its impact, like water consumption impact on the watershed, and what measures do you take to really trade off that, to offset that water footprint that you have?
Thank you so much, for
the question, and thank you Balipara Foundation for having Tata Consumer on your forum on a very important topic like nature and watershed. Technically, whenever we hear about water, either we talk about a natural resource or a resource under stress. What is more important is to understand that water is a shared resource, and hence our common future is connected to the way we look at water, we perceive water, and how we use water. And that is why the watershed concept becomes very prudent, because it connects all the users of that watershed up to the source from where the water is from. And hence, a watershed has always been, in fact, is now being a central discussion point on how we look at water. That's one part. The second part is that, so if you have to really make a water conservation strategy, it has to include not only water availability but water prudent uses. And that is where there's a combination for companies like Tata Consumer, where we bring in a product which is based in water, like Tata Himalayan water or the Tata Coffee Plus or Gluco Plus. But we also use water, for example, our Tata Coffee plantations or our coffee making or our processed food. So we say that we have got water in the process, in the product both. And hence, while within the fence, of course, efficiency becomes the primary lever. We also see how we go beyond the fence and not only create infrastructure around water, but to also say that we build capacities of people of how to use water, which is a very important aspect. You can build infra very fast, but building capacity actually needs a lot of concerted efforts. And I think I will second Dr. Drupad Chaudhary's view that indigenous people and indigenous knowledge that is there on the ground actually helps you to create a prudency of use, as well as the conservation angle towards water as a finite but a shared resource. Whether you are, I mean, we can classify regarding who uses more, who uses less. Ultimately, we are all consumers of water. We have to. That's the way we look at it.
Yes, thank you. I'm really cutting short everybody because we are hard pressed for time. And we have somebody doing a timekeeping also for us. So, but absolutely right. I think back to basics again is what is coming again and again. And how indigenous people who were custodians of these natural resources, who lived in harmony, how do we really learn from them if we have to conserve our water? But now moving on to Mr. Reddy. Mr. Reddy, we have a lot of young people sitting here who want to contribute a lot. When we talk about sustainable development, we talk about watershed management, they really want to do a lot about it. And this morning someone spoke about demographic dividend also. So India is blessed with a huge youth population. So how do you think we can engage them in this whole process of water conservation or watershed management for water security?
Thank you so much, Dr. Faucia. We at Igniting Minds is a one-man vision. That is Dr. Kalam's vision. Has become a nation's vision to engage, educate, empower the youth of India. As we know that if we come to India, we have approximately 65+% youth are under 35 years age. And what is the first this thing? What we are doing at Igniting Minds? We are educating first. Awareness is important. What exactly we have the natural resources. We know we have almost we are contributing 18+% of global population, and we have only less than 5% of the water resources. So how we can really utilize this water? How we manage this water in a proper way? That is important. So that's why. What we are doing, we are engaging, educating, empowering youth of this country, saying that what exactly your water availability. For example, lot of the people doesn't know, even in this room, how many people know about it, what exactly the average annual rainfall in India. And coming to a state like Assam, what is the Assam average annual rainfall? If you come to the local Gav, where we are sitting in the city of Gauhati, what is the average annual rainfall in the city of Gauhati? So if we know that, they know what exactly the availability of water. For example, if we come to a average rainfall in India is around 200 millimeters. When we come to Assam state, it is almost 2,200 millimeters to 2,800 millimeters rainfall. It means per square meter, you will have approximately 2,000 liters water available. So that's what we are educating the young people, that this is a limited resource, is becoming a commodity. As my fellow colleagues here, that everything is becoming a commodity where it is a natural resource. So that's where we are doing that. First, most important, we are creating an awareness how much water is available, how we can utilize, what is our day-to-day practices. So if we go to an agriculture, like we go to the farmers and all these things, we need to see that, okay, how much, what exactly you are growing, what is the water consumption it is required, how you are really utilizing that water in a what better way. There lies, like what we are saying, that water is the life, okay, it is not only life, water is new currency, water is new oil. So once upon a time, when we are going to, when even I am talking about 3 decades ago, when I go to schools and college, the education was almost free. Now, the young minds are not, it is a free. It is, everything is, you need to be pay a lot. So, when you are acquiring knowledge and all this thing, water is also becoming scarce every year by year, day by day. Water is a new currency now. So, everything you need to go and buy on the shelf. That's where we are creating an awareness, especially in the young minds, that they are the one, what we believe that students are the change agents and youth are the game changers. If youth are empowered in a proper way, then we can really address the problem what we are facing today.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely right. I think what gets measured gets managed. So people should learn first to measure what's there. And since we had a lot of banks, in the earlier panel, they were speaking, water, your watershed is like your savings account. So if you have money in your savings account, you can spend, you can utilize it. But if you don't have money there, you can't. It's just the same way, I think. If you don't have water in your watershed, then from where do you get water? So that's very critical. Dr. Eklava Sharma, I would come back to you, and I would really like everybody to be brief. I don't want to be in between lunch for people. But we have been talking about collective action, cooperation, international cooperation. You have worked in EC mode also, so I would really like you to reflect, and of course, almost 40 years in the Himalayan region. I would like you to reflect on how do we really go about building this cooperation and not going further, not going for a fragmented but an integrated approach.
Thank you. I think it's a very important question. Looking at the third pole, if you look at the peace index, if you look at the conflict index, we are in very worse situations. It's the most conflicting region, and when we talk about cooperation, the entry point is science. And when I say science, I have not said the formal science. Even the indigenous knowledge system which is coming is a science, in my opinion. So science is an entry point. And my experience working in CIMON for 20 years, we have been able to really bring cooperation through science diplomacy without bringing any political thing. So 350 scientists from 2014 till 5 years working in the region, plus evidence assessment comes, then we develop a regional cooperation framework which is co-developed with the 8 countries, signed by all the countries, and now it is being taken forward. So the science, when I say all forms of knowledge has to be taken into consideration, that is very, very important. But when we come to very specific topics like watershed management, or we are talking about river basins, then sub-regional networks are very important. If you look at Indus, so 90% of water for irrigation for Indus basin is coming from glacier melt. Whereas if you look at Ganga, it is only 10% is coming from glacier melt. And if you look at Brahmaputra, it is 20 to 25%. So for Ganga basin or Brahmaputra basin, it is the forest and middle hill areas, watersheds, water is very important. So cooperation in this, we have to see how it is doing. That's why in Kosi Basin, it is very much looking into a little bit of China, where it's more, but mostly Nepal and India. So Brahmaputra, if you look at, so most of our water, if we look, the watersheds are coming from middle hills and high hills, but meltwater is not coming from upstream. So in that context, we have to have a reasonable approach in terms of managing these resources.
Yeah.
So finally, I think in my crunch, I think regional cooperation has to, again, I have said earlier also, it has to be done at different levels, community. So just to give a very short example, community early warning system, which we actually piloted first in Assam, has become a transboundary in Nepal and Bihar. So it works between communities. You don't have to go to a formal channel with the government. Similarly for business. So if you have a product which is coming from a watershed, and it is going to some other country for value addition, and it's going, and the talk has to be business to business. But the government has to provide an instrument of cross-border cooperation. That's all. I think we have to really see the cooperation has to be between different stakeholders, but the governance has to be done through government, through the guidelines or instruments.
Absolutely, sir. I think they have to be facilitators for this. But you're bang on where you say that, watershed, of course, is at a much larger level. But how can we really look at a micro watershed and also at the community level, which then sort of can be scaled up to other places as well? And Dr. Drupad, I would like to now request you that we do know that we have been listening to a lot of indigenous models also, which are their frameworks, which have been successful. Northeast has been home to very good systems, I would say proven systems of like Zabo system, or you have Apatani system, or for that matter we have now Dhara Vikas in Sikkim. So we have a lot of successful models which are there. How do you see these scaling up? How can we really scale up to other places?
I think, let me start with the Dhara Vikas, the spring sheds. If you look at, again, going back to what ISMOD as an institution has been able to bring about these changes in terms of scaling. Through ISMOD, we have been able to scale the spring shed management to various countries. Right? In fact, right at this moment, there are pilots going on in the Northeast, which is supported by ISMOD and Ecuador, in Nagaland and in Manipur, right? But it's the same, the basic idea or the template is the Dhara Vikas, right? So there are ways in which you can do this. I take another example again from ISMOD, and that's been the program. In fact, Eklavya here was the person who started that program, and that's the transboundary landscape management, right? It gives you a framework which takes you all the way from the macro level, where you have different countries involved, down to the communities, right? And there have been, through these programs and other programs, replication of such interventions which are there, which were localized, but then had the potential to scale. I think the other thing that we heard in the morning, Balipara has been doing, the networking of like-minded community or civil society-based organizations which have or share the same objectives. These need to come together. The coalition which is required, having the same objectives and having the same vision, supporting that, and through that building up the advocacy for bringing the cooperation among nations. One more aspect that I would bring in here was something that was being done or talked about under the UNFCCC. That was in terms of, each of the countries through the UNFCCC has the national adaptation plans, particularly the LDCs. We realized quite early on that you might have very good national development, national adaptation plans in the country, but it could adversely affect your neighbor because there's certain transboundary issues which come in. So water management, for example, water does not remain confined within the boundaries of one country. It's a country commodity, a common need. So quite early on, UNFCCC realized that what we need to advocate for are transboundary regional adaptation plans. And in that regional adaptation plans, I think the importance of bringing in elements such as the LAPA, which was the local adaptation plans in Nepal, or similar models bringing in, would go a long way in scaling what we have to do.
Yeah, thank you very much. In fact, now I would like to move to Mr. Anand Singh. And I would like you to reflect a little on, since you have a background in agriculture and Tata has its estates as well, what are the measures that you are taking in your estates to ensure water security? Any specific measures?
As far as Tata Steel Foundation work in water security in Western India, we have set our strategy for 2030. We will be going to conserve 1,000 million cubic feet of water in all working states of Tata Steel Foundation, Odisha, Jharkhand, West Bengal, and some other neighboring states. We have been taking a lot of projects on watershed management, mini watershed managements, micro watershed managements, in collaboration with NABARD, SDFC Bank, Standard Chartered, and State Watershed Mission Odisha and Jharkhand. Right now, we are implementing around watershed in around 50,000 hectares of land and conserved water around 300 million cubic feet of water by end of this year. And so such kind of projects we are taking ahead towards the water security in these states. And also, as one of the panelists was saying, the water conservation is one of the objective, but by side also there is huge emphasis given, needs to be given on the application of water on agricultural prospect. So it is very important to actually use water efficient technologies and the use of renewable energy sources and the gravity flow irrigations for reducing our energy consumptions. So we are taking a lot of measures on water security aspect, also for in soil conservation also. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would now request Vishwa to you. A little bit I would like to reflect on use of technology. So in terms of, we are talking about digital technology, AI, ML. How do you see these integrating into your initiatives, especially with respect to watershed management? Are you doing something to measure the impact? How do you see, what metrics do you have in terms of seeing the impact of your initiatives? And also, I have one more question which I want to throw to you as well, is on restoration financing. So in the morning someone mentioned about climate change, impacts of climate change being known unknown. So how do you really apportion money for restoration?
Thank you so much. We have taken a commitment to become water neutral by 2030 as a country. And we did a water risk assessment very recently, which combined international frameworks like CTSB and others. And in fact, we also use WRI Aqueduct to understand from the physical perspective, what are the physical stress locations. That gives a differential boundary to where we need to focus more from a water pollution perspective. Apart from that, also we do transitional risk, which talks about water in terms of blue water, grey water, in terms of virtual water, in terms of water cess that may come up like carbon tax also. These are another paradigm which we throw in more details. But broadly, if you see satellite guided imageries like CI WaterScan, WRA Aqueduct, and the recent blue rating system by the NITI Aayog also talks about watershed perspective to be given around. And they have defined also how you can conserve watershed. So even if you do CSR, you can't do CSR somewhere else while you are creating impact somewhere else. So those definitions are also guiding the way policy is also helping. In the green credit has come up policy very recently. That's one way of looking at it. Our way is very simple. One is that inside the boundary we see at how we prudently use water. We have got internal targets on water use efficiency. Outside, we support a lot of water conservation through our landmark project Jalodhari. Where we work in Himachal, we work in Assam a lot. And these are focused primarily on water conservation and wash elements also. So bring in that aspect as well. In terms of restoration finance, the TCMT study that we did, climate assessment, brought out that you could have a tax advisory coming in. One is the internal carbon pricing we do very strongly, so that whenever we are expanding, we have a clear carbon pricing attached to it, how much money we should keep aside for restoration purpose basically. ICP can be one way that we address it in our system. Sorry, I have to be brief, I understand you have a time constraint, but we can offline discuss this more.
Thank you for that. In fact, I would also request if, wherever you do your projects, if you can have an automatic groundwater level recorders and a digital display, because just like in air quality, when we see this digital display and we see 2.5 and PM10, we are somewhere, pushed to take action. But similar kind of digital displays we don't see with respect to water. So if the technology can be used to bring about behavioral change, I think,
You just propelled me to answer this question again. So Himalayan water, which is our iconic spring water, is bottled at the source, which is the aquifer. We did a full study for an entire year on the aquifer hydrogeology. Of course, we looked at how we can make it like the sensor based as well, but the entire study dwelt upon the source water sustainability study and going up to the community in terms of how they are using the water that they have conserved over. And the plant has recently got even certified as water neutral from that perspective.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. That's good. Last, Mr. Reddy, coming to you. See, we do formulate policies. For instance, I'll tell you. For instance, we have the Jal Jeevan Mission. It's a brilliant policy for bringing water on tap for people. But from where is it drawing water? It's drawing water from our groundwater, primarily dependent on groundwater. And while it talks about source sustainability, there is not much in terms of operationalization. So where do you see such policy gaps which are there? And perhaps anything that you feel that could be added to policies to make them stronger and perhaps more effective?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. So what we do at Igniting Minds, as I told we do first in awareness. Awareness is not only among the public and all this thing, awareness with the policymakers and the politicians also. So for example, what we did, we take this simple water pledge activity. We'll go there, we'll tell them about what is importance, how much water and all these things. We'll take a photograph with them. If possible, any smaller events, even schools, colleges, any events, even what you call public health department, any events, will take this water pledge. So over a period of time, then we built a very good relationship with the universities, colleges, and everywhere. We'll say that catch the rain where it falls. For example, I'll take my own state, Hyderabad. So we have approximately 1500 square kilometer area of city, HMDA, Hyderabad Metro Water Quality City, where we have a calculation as we measure that approximately the rainfall will be quantified as a 44 TMC of water. But Hyderabad draw water from 180 kilometers from different, one is Krishna River and another one is Godavari River. So slowly what we said that return on the investment, as we always say that water is a new oil, water is a new currency. And if you always look into that, what is your return on the investments? So slowly, initially what we did, we started implementing catching the rain activity in the government buildings, colleges and schools and all these things. Earlier, Hyderabad used to be any monsoon, it used to huge flooding, all the urban streets and all this. It is damaging a lot of the public property and other things and other things. Slowly, then over a period of time, government is understanding that okay, we are spending only transport of water to Hyderabad city. It is more than 1100 crores per annum electricity bill, and on top of that, it was so much this thing. Slowly, government is come forward, even the people come forward to promoting rainwater harvesting. So with this simple magic and this thing, we constructed and we restored more than 20,000 rainwater harvesting structures. So another policy I will tell you, the government of Telangana, when it is state formation is happened in the year 2014, the forest coverage is only 22-23%. So state was having an ambition target of how we can really bring it from 22% to 33% forest coverage. So government, any policy, if it is public participation, if community participation is not there, then it is a problem. So then government approaches, hey, Igniting Minds, anyway you are doing a very good advocacy in young minds and all this, and how can we collaborate with you? So we can increase our target is within 10 years, we need to increase our 22% to 33%. So what we did with the third remembrance of Dr. Kalam, we want to give a tribute to Dr. Kalam with 1 billion trees. So what we did, we made a simple strategy that each one plant 3, nurture 3 years and nominate 3 more people. So because just planting today morning also somebody is discussing tree plantation is happening, but the survival rate is less than 20%. So how we can increase the survival rate? So with the Green India Challenge, we planted approximately 190 million trees in the last 7 years and 98% survival rate. What we are doing, we have a simple technology. We are using anybody plant a tree, they can download our mobile app, they can geotag it simply, and every 100 days it will give you a reminder that okay, we want to see your plant growth and all this. So policy, government has really taken this into next level, and we, the first state in the country in last 8 years, approximately 8.5% forest coverage increased. That is the success. So effective policies, it has to be come from a bottom to top approach. If the communities is really engaged, communities is having a real awareness about what they require, then policy automatically it is coming, and because all the lawmakers, whoever seeing what exactly required for the people, that is where the success of the policy effective implementation.
Thank you. I think government comes up with policies. We need people for it to trickle down, and polycentric governance, what we talk about. So basically, we need good governance at all levels for it to trickle down. Excellent thought. I think we are just really running short of time, and I know you are carrying a water pledge with you, and you would like everybody to take a pledge. So we would like to end this session with a pledge, but at the same time, I would like to also thank all my panel members for the brilliant discussion. It was just very incisive and insightful. We do have a water pledge that has come from Igniting Minds. So may I request you to please initiate the pledge, and I would request everybody to stand up. Yeah, please. So, and you can repeat after you. Yeah, we can all do that, Mr.
We will repeat after you.
Oh, after me?
Yeah.
Okay. So the water pledge says that I take an oath to conserve water and to use water wisely. I pledge to consume water judiciously and not waste even a drop of water. I treat water as the most precious treasure that I possess and consume it accordingly. I pledge to motivate my family, friends, and neighbors to use water wisely and not waste it. It is our planet, and only we can save it. Thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot. Thank you, wonderful panelists. And all questions can be taken during the lunch break. Thank you.